Southern Miss introduces their new head football coach, Charles Huff. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We'll get to the Charles Huff news here momentarily. Tim Beck in Coastal Carolina facing the portal realities, and we'll preview South Alabama taking on Western Michigan in the bowl game on a Saturday. Another quick thanks. We have 10 more subscribers or so on Thursday. We had another 1,000 views or so. We're setting another record for this week. Really, thank you so much. I mean, if we could we may actually get close to 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I really do appreciate it. And we're going to be doing all these bowl games for the next 2 weeks. So we shall see. We are headed home. When I say we, I mean me, myself, and I headed home to Syracuse, but we will not stop doing the podcast here. We'll have to catch up with the Saturday game on probably Sunday because we're going to have a little fun on Saturday night. But we will we'll keep up with it, and we'll have an episode. We won't miss an episode. All right, we'll get Tuesday's episode out before, or I'll record it before I take off late Tuesday evening, actually. So we'll get that one done, and we'll be all set. So I do appreciate it, and we'll probably hit 1,800 subscribers here, early next week. So you guys are the best. Thank you so much. All right. So Southern Miss introduces Charles Huff, and he discussed his side of the story that the administration back at Marshall had a process. They came to the end of that process, and they had concluded that they were going to move on. It sounds like they decided they were going to move on previous to them making the Sun Belt championship game. Like maybe mid-season, maybe after the Georgia Southern game. He wasn't specific about that, but kind of, I'm going to guess, before the ODU game. All right. They had decided to move on. Maybe even well before that, they had decided to move on. And admittedly, Charles Huff said, I interviewed for jobs. Some jobs had presented itself, and respect to my family. I don't have a contract. I need to go out and look for a job. I don't think that should surprise anybody. He did say it was mutual, so it was not a knockout, drag out. He did use the word non-traditional in the way things went down. But it did not seem like it was acrimonious. It doesn't seem like that was an issue. It feels like Marshall wanted one thing, Charles Huff wanted another. They could not come to an agreement. And they said, take care. Is it that big a deal? Right? I mean, it just seems like everybody's happy. And yet we still see Southern Miss fans fighting Marshall fans. Like Southern Miss fans are thrilled. We just went and got the Sun Belt coach that just won the championship. Marshall fans are like, good riddance, right? He's been trying to get out of here since the day he got here. All right. Southern Miss fans are like, if he wins, he's going to leave. Now, that's where I would say what I've said a couple of times, like Mike Desimo has to win a lot in a big way because someone's going to have to come calling for him. He's not really looking to leave. He said that. And like John Summerall said the other day, if someone comes calling and is going to triple your salary, Mike Desimo is going to listen, right? Mike Desimo, I presume, is going to get like a 5-year, $5 million deal, right? He's going to get a little bump in pay. And he's going to be thrilled to death. And we'll see what happens with the Walker Howard experiment for a couple of years, we believe. Okay. But say he goes to 3 straight Sun Belt championships and say he wins the next 2. Does someone come and get him? Is that good enough for a Power 4 job? Or is he going to Tulane, where he's going to make 1.5 instead of $1 million? Right? I don't think Desimo would do that. Whereas now Charles Huff is making just under $1 million. And I saw some Southern Miss fans say if he's leaving, that means he's winning. And that's what they want, right? Some teams, they are stepping stone jobs. And with the Cajuns, Mike Desmo is not looking at it as a stepping stone job. He's happy where he is. If things change, then that's for the better because he's doing good. Whereas it feels like Marshall they want that guy to stay, right? I got a guy with Fran Brown. We'll see how long he's in Syracuse, right? Syracuse can't compete with the SEC, the Big Ten, and some of the guys in the ACC. Bill Belichick is going to Syracuse next year. He's taking Carolina into Syracuse. I somehow got to get home for that football game. It's at the end of the year. That is unbelievable. Different podcast. So anyways, kind of like what I said, if Charles Huff, for the last 2 weeks, if Charles Huff doesn't have a contract, don't be surprised that he's interviewing, right? Well, he went behind the back of the administration, not what Christian Spears said. Now, I don't know if Christian Spears is being Mr. Nice Guy, right? But it doesn't feel like, to me, it doesn't feel like we're missing something, right? So he tried to go get other jobs after he was there in year one. Okay. Maybe his wife didn't like living in Huntington. Okay. I don't know if you guys know this, but, Miss Terry didn't particularly like South Florida all that much. I happen to be down there at the same time. She prefers small college towns. She prefers places like Baton Rouge and Tuscaloosa than in South Florida. Okay. Right. She can get to the other side of Tuscaloosa in the same time it takes her probably to get from her house to the highway in South Florida. So, when there's traffic. So Southern Miss introduces Charles Huff. I liked his line, right? I'm not going to the worst team, although he is. I'm not going to the worst. I'm not going to a 111 team. I'm going to the team that I'm recruiting, right? And I'm sure any day now, and that it could happen in between, me recording this podcast and, Friday morning, that Braylon Braxton commits to Southern Miss. I fully believe that, right? That's what I think. Ethan Crawford has decided to transfer, which is no surprise. Would be interesting to know how that process goes, right? And are they talking to Charles Huff? It's, this is, Huff went to Hattiesburg on Sunday, right? He was picked up on Sunday. Still think he was picked up in Lafayette, by the way. Nonetheless, his intro on Thursday. So that's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I know he was doing a lot of stuff, but somewhere along the way, he was looking at film, right? He's checking to see who all of his players are and see who wants to come back and who doesn't, right? You guys interested in coming back? Let me know. All right, I got to know where I'm standing. So again, fascinating. I think the New York Times or The Athletic, wrote a story. I'm absolutely going to read that one because I'm just fascinated in the whole process. Just the whole idea that, one school letting another coach go who just won the conference championship, right? Although, as Huff admitted, that decision was made beforehand, before he said made the championship game or won the championship. I kind of feel like it was made. I don't think it was made after they beat JMU. That would be, you're telling me you decided not to extend him after they beat JMU? That seems like an odd decision. Kind of feel like it was before ODU. That's where I kind of feel like it was. Or, well, actually, probably before that, because that's when he's interviewing for jobs. I'm not sure he's interviewing for jobs in the last couple of weeks. Maybe he was. I don't know. But nonetheless, we're still trying to get him on. Again, people are busy. I actually have some free time over the next 4 days. So we will see if we can get all the coaches on. And, of course, they're busy, moving families, finding homes, getting staffs, portal, recruiting. They got a lot more things to do than, hop on a podcast with me. So hopefully they can find 20 minutes, though, of their time to hop on Locked On Sunbelt. All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, Tim Beck and Coastal Carolina. facing the realities of the transfer portal. We'll do that when we come back after I tell you about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc., all in pricing. You toggle this feature and it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout, and you get to see where you're sitting. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and you get that lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage is your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Tim Beck facing the media today. And he kind of was resigned to the fact of what the portal was. I don't think he was complaining too much. It didn't seem like his tone of voice was very even keel. I saw it on social media, so you can find it. It's out there. But he basically says we're not building a program. We're building a team. And we're going to lose our best players every year. And other schools have more funds than others. Although the guy who used to coach Coastal Carolina basically founded, TD Waterhouse. Someone's got some money somewhere. Or TD Ameritrade or something along those lines. There's a little money back in Coastal Carolina if they wanted it to be. But he's finding out the realities. That's what it is. Now, there are some things about that because, the Cajuns, they're doing better now. All right. But they've lost some players, and I'm going to find out why. They seem to have lost. Maybe these players asked for more money than they were originally going to be given. I don't know. The Cajuns lost a couple of key players last year, but not a lot. Right now, Georgia Southern doesn't have a whole lot in the transfer portal. I don't think Georgia State has a whole lot in the transfer portal. Coastal Carolina has a whole lot in the transfer portal. There's some teams that don't have a lot in the transfer portal and some more than others. Obviously, Marshall has a lot because the coaches changed. Southern Miss will have a lot. That comes with the territory when the coaches change. That's why the Coastal Carolina situation is, why do you have so many in the transfer portal? You're going to year 3. You should have some guys in there that want to stick around. You're losing your 2 deep, right? So, both your quarterbacks are leaving. Right? Noah Kim just transferred in. He's leaving. Ethan Vasco is leaving. What happened? So, he's finding out the realities of what it is. Now, someone tweeted out, Tim Beck has always moved on because he's always moved up in terms of either programs or positions because he's getting more money. The thing is, though, it is tough not to be able to build a program. All right, that's the current system is not sustainable. All right, and I'm not even talking about the money. I'm talking about you can't move on every year. You're not going to be able to do that. So somewhere along the way, they're going to change that. And I think you're going to have to, once you set parameters for these kids, I think you're going to have to register as agents. Just like the NBA does and the MLB does and the NFL does. And those guys are making, I thought I heard 3%. And the NIL guys are making 15, 20, 25%. And they're shady as not necessarily the most above board, right? Like Scott Boras is going to do what's best for his client, not necessarily be as forthcoming as necessary for the teams. It's kind of backwards for the NIL guys, right? Because the NIL guys are going to the schools and asking, would you be interested in this guy and that guy? And how much do you got for this guy? Then they call the guy and then they say, hey, I can get you this, this, and that. And then that may or may not materialize. And as we've told you with Tulsa, it never materialized. No, these players got flat out lied to. No, I mean, these players are going to be really taken advantage of. And what you also hope that doesn't happen is that these guys are not stuck with a huge tax bill. That's the other thing, right? Like they're stuck with an enormous tax bill, right? If you're getting, and you don't pay it, now you're breaking the law. So hopefully, if you're the schools and now the schools are involved with the NIL, right? I just saw social media post with, Major Applewhite, and we saw all the Will Hall stuff to get involved with the Southern Miss NIL, and Major Applewhite trying to get everybody involved with the South Alabama NIL. If I'm doing that, I'm making sure that these kids understand finance and taxes and what all they need. They need an attorney. They need someone to represent them. The agents are not representing them. The agents are representing themselves. All right. That's the thing. And those guys are about as shady as it gets. That is not great. Not great at all. So Tim Beck and Coastal, among others, facing the realities of the transfer portal. And eventually that's going to change, but it's going to take a minute or two before we wrap our heads around it and fix it. All right, let's take a time out. We'll come back, wrap it up with a preview. South Alabama taking on Western Michigan on Saturday. We will do that right after I tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked on Sunbelt. Your teams every day. All right. Bowl season is kicking off on Saturday. And it starts off with South Alabama and Western Michigan in the salute to a Veterans Bowl. Let me see what the Cramden Bowl in Montgomery. That's a 9 p.m. Saturday night football game. I may be actually be able to watch this one. ESPN doesn't break it down like they used to. Defense versus offense. But you know who did? Our buddy Funbelt Sports did. Sunbelt _sports did. He broke it down. I thought he did. Yeah, he did. He did a really good job with it. And we're going to steal that from him. There's not going to be a lot of defense played in this. Western Michigan gives up more than 31 points a game. South Alabama gives up more than 25 points a game. South Alabama scores almost 35 points a game, and Western Michigan scores almost 30 points a game. South Alabama's passing defense is 116th in the nation. Western Michigan's rushing offense is 36th in the nation. We'll see if Gio Lopez is going to play in this one. That's going to be a big one. I don't think Fluff Bothwell is going to play in this ball game. We'll see. I would think he's not. He seems to be visiting. Someone put it out there. I thought it was somebody on ESPN saying what you should do. It would seem like the over of 57.5 yards, 57.5 points is a no-brainer in this one. It's got some storylines. I think it's got some pretty cool storylines. Lance Taylor and Major Applewhite know each other from Alabama. They were both on Nick Saban's staff very early on, so that's very cool. Lance Taylor is from the Mobile area, so he's from down there, so that's pretty cool as well. And I think it's got some cool storylines heading into this game, and the bowl game is getting done with quickly. We're going to see if we can get Major Applewhite on before he goes into a recruiting or holiday cocoon here. I presume he's got to start re-recruiting his players, immediately. The ones that he thinks he wants to keep. We'll see if we get him in before the holidays and see how he thinks year number one went, because if anybody has been on a roller coaster this year, it's been South Alabama. What a season it was, from the North Texas game that got out of hand, losing to Ohio, a huge blowout win against App State, big win against the Cajuns, both on the road, not playing well against Arkansas State on the road, blowing a home game to Georgia Southern, just unbelievable. Letting the Texas State game slip away. It's been all kinds of craziness this season. And he had a talented team. I don't know if it was some injuries or consistency. Gio Lopez was out for that Ohio game. And Ohio ends up being pretty good. But 10-2, 10-3. So they're pretty good. So no shame in that one. So we'll see. And Lance Taylor, Western Michigan won very good a couple years ago. I think he's finishing up year number 3. So I think he's doing pretty good. And maybe year number 2. Could be year number 2. One of those. So he's done a good job of turning Western Michigan around very quickly. He was actually the offensive coordinator here in Louisville for a couple years. So I'm looking forward to watching the game. Certainly does not seem like it's going to be lack of offense. And we'll have a full recap. We'll have a full recap on Monday. So I'll get a chance to do that on Sunday. So it is a late Saturday night ball game. So doesn't get out of the way of that Army-Navy matchup this weekend. But I'm going to take the line is South Alabama by 8, opened up at 10.5, and I'm going to hedge my bet. I'm going to take 57.5, and I'm going to take South Alabama, but only if Gio plays. If Gio is not playing, if Gio starts, I'll take South Alabama. All right. If Gio is not starting, I'm not taking it, and I probably wouldn't bet the over either. I'm not sure what. I would presume that might be 2 different game plans. All right. So we'll see what happens there. But they are kicking off the bowl season. It is the first bowl game period nationally. So that's pretty neat. All right. South Alabama sort of gets the stage to themselves. I presume is there an NFL game? I presume there's an NFL game this weekend, right? No, there's not an NFL game yet on Saturday. So that's pretty neat. All right. So Saturday night, South Alabama gets the stage to themselves. All right. So let's see what they can do with it. If Gio's healthy, it could be the Gio Lopez coming out party, because he's a special player. He really is. Really special player. All right. Again, thank you so much. We're almost at 1,760 subscribers. Crazy. 2.5 weeks ago, we we had less than 1,650. Now we almost have 1,660. So you guys are the best. We set a record easily this week for most views. Keep them coming. We'll keep talking about the same stories. Still trying to get the coaches. Not gonna let them off the hook, so to speak. We did see Dowell Logan do one with an App State podcast, which of course they deserve. Of course, they're there locally and it's their podcast, so that's a good job by them. But we'll follow up with App State and we'll follow up with Southern Miss as well, just to make sure they know that I have a little bit of time here and I can work around their schedule, whether it be early, well, whether it's during the day. As a radio host, outside of doing it during the radio show, I can wake up early, I can come home on a moment's notice. But when you're working at a distillery 20 minutes away, that can't happen. So that's not going to happen. But I am taking 4 days off, but I can absolutely do the podcast and interview the coaches at their convenience over the next few days. All right. I do appreciate you guys. Again, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. This has been fantastic. I'm watching it grow exponentially from what it has been. So I look forward to doing this every day, even more than I have been. So have a great weekend. We will not be missing anything, even though I am heading back to Central New York for a few days. All right. Thank you so much. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day.